Yo, Donald Trump's Bitcoin plan could no longer be ignored. We have new information that the founder of one of the largest exchanges in the world is now advising nation states with hundreds of millions of people on how to implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve. You heard that right. Stay tuned today because we're going to be uncovering who this billionaire is, where these silent nation states are, and why this could be the catalyst for Bitcoin's next move higher. Before we jump into the article covering this, is actually a Financial Times article, believe it or not. Let's jump straight into it. Here on Financial Times, the headline is Binance acting as advisor to governments on crypto regulation. So on top of that, you're reading that headline and you're like, what does that have to do with the strategic Bitcoin reserve? Well, if you dig deeper into the text, it explicitly mentions it. So let's check it out. Binance, the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange, which in 2023 pleaded guilty to U.S. criminal charges, is advising several countries on creating their own digital asset regulations. And here's the key point, and establishing national strategic Bitcoin reserves. A couple things to unpack there. Number one, they didn't say national crypto reserves, it says national strategic Bitcoin reserves. That's number one. Number two, I find it interesting, the first part where it says, which in 2023 pleaded guilty to U.S. Criminal charges. The reason for that is I never forget the Binance DOJ press conference. They said the word terrorism like 50 times. Like, I was looking at that. I was like, no, I think that this is Operation Choke Point 2.0 in full force. Remember, Arthur Hayes, founder of BitMEX, and CZ were both charged by the DOJ. Arthur Hayes was actually pardoned by President Trump, and CZ was actually invited to the White House crypto summit that the president had about like a month ago or so. So it's interesting, right? But it's interesting how they tried to frame it that way, like, oh, this, Binance committed all these crimes. Anyways, Richard Tang, the firm's chief executive, told the Financial Times that the U.S.'s more crypto-friendly approach under President Donald Trump, including plans to set up a regulatory framework for digital assets and a national stockpile, was spurring other countries into taking similar action. I mean, what have we been telling you for months now here at Simply Bitcoin? We've been telling you that the game theory is inevitable for other countries to start acquiring Bitcoin because they fear getting left behind by the United States. Compared to many other jurisdictions, the U.S. are way ahead on that front. The firm has been approached by quite a lot of countries to help them with formulating their regulatory framework to govern crypto, he added. He declined to name countries that the firm is working with. The news comes less than 18 months after Binance pleaded guilty to criminal charges related to money laundering and breaching international financial sanctions and agreed to pay more than $4.3 billion in penalties. Co-founder and CEO CZ stepped down and was replaced by Tang. Zhao later served 4 months in prison. Earlier this year, France deepened its investigation into Binance on suspicion it broke European money laundering and terrorist financing laws between 2019 and 2024. Binance has denied the allegations and said it will vigorously fight any charges made against it. Now, okay, when they say that, I'm not saying that people didn't use BitMEX or Binance to break the law. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I think governments are using money laundering and terrorism as an excuse to go after on-ramps and off-ramps. In the case of Nigeria, it was really interesting. It was like one of the first countries in Africa to launch a CBDC, and it was a total failure. No one really wanted to adopt it because it doesn't solve the two issues that Bitcoin solves, which is, gets rid of inflation and it's censorship resistant. And instead of the government of Nigeria taking responsibility, what they did was they arrested one of the Binance executives in the country, right? And I think you saw a very similar kind of behavior coming out of the DOJ, coming out of the United States, when they went after CZ, when they went after Arthur Hayes. Like, okay, I'm positive that a percentage of people using BitMEX or Binance were committing crimes. 100%. That's undeniable, right? The platforms are so big. But I think they use that as an excuse to go after those platforms. and to go after those founders. And if you look at the data, right, when banks essentially commit these same crimes, you don't see the founders of those banks get thrown in prison. Those banks get fined. There's a big difference. And by the way, the multitudes of money, like most of illicit finance is happening in the traditional financial system, not Bitcoin. But of course, they conveniently leave all of that out. So the framing here is really important. Anyways, it goes on to say, the US has also imposed a 5-year monitoring program, which came into effect last year on the exchange to ensure compliance, overseen by its Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Tank said nearly a quarter of Binance's 6,000 employees worked in compliance and would continue to invest heavily in this area. The company was now, quote, in a form and shape that regulations appreciate much more compared to the past. This month, these are the two countries, both Pakistan and Kyrgyzstan announced that Zhao had begun advising them on developing crypto regulations and the use of blockchain technologies. Roy Doyle, head of financial crime policy at Compliance Software Group, said global anti-money laundering rules have been updated in recent years to capture cryptocurrency companies. Money laundering is a $2 to $3 trillion a year business, and crypto is getting into line. Crypto is becoming more mainstream, and firms are making money from legitimate business. It's just starting not to be worth being negligent in your procedures. Ten said the exchange was helping a number of countries set up national strategic Bitcoin reserves. I mean, they only give it one sentence, and they put it towards the end, which is somewhat depressing. But this is awesome. This is the signal from this entire article. I mean, it matches the headline of the video. This is it right here. You have to pay attention to what is happening in the background. So yes, the price might be going sideways. You know, we might be chop solidation. Bitcoin's a new stable coin. Can't deny all those things, right? This is one of the most bullish cycles from a price perspective, from a price perspective. It's been, somewhat somewhat docile, to say the least. But if you pay attention to what's happening in the background, it's incredibly effing bullish, right? You have the United States, the world's most powerful government militarily and economically, most powerful country in the world, saying, listen, we want a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And as we've been predicting over these many months here at Simply Bitcoin, that essentially spurred all these other countries into following in the footsteps and saying, hey, you know what? We want strategic Bitcoin reserves as well. So it goes on to say, quote, we have actually received quite a number of approaches by a few governments and sovereign wealth funds on the establishment of their own crypto reserves. Trump last month ordered the creation of a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile, although the news disappointed traders, hoping the plan would trigger a wave of large-scale government purchases of digital assets. Bitcoin surged to a record of 108,000 per token in the wake of Trump's victory last November. However, the price has tumbled 10% this year as momentum faded and investors have sold risky assets on fears over the impact of Trump's aggressive tariff policy. It goes on to say, the U.S. said it would only hold assets that have been forfeited to the country's law enforcement authorities. The U.S. currently controls Bitcoin and other coins worth roughly $17.1 billion. But I keep saying this, right? This article, it's interesting how it's framed, right? I would say it's framed in a more negative light. Like, it's trying to tell you a certain narrative, because we've played you many, many clips of the person who's advising Trump on digital assets, Bo Hines, and of course, Senator Cynthia Lummis. They are trying to push forward so that the U.S. government acquires more Bitcoin. We keep hearing them say, where there's Howard Lutnick, Bo Hines, we have every intention to acquire more Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. So it's interesting that the article just kind of leaves that out. Anyways, goes on to say, supporters of a Bitcoin reserve argue that the U.S. should build a stockpile that could serve as an alternative to the dollar. Bitcoin has been likened by proponents to digital gold as an asset that cannot be debased by central banks or government policies. The return of Donald Trump to the White House has shifted the U.S.'s stance on Binance. The U.S. market regulators, the SEC, paused its investigation into Binance and its U.S. arm after Trump's inauguration as president. So Opti was chairing Gary Gensler yesterday. kept saying, yeah, okay, you know, he's talking nice about Bitcoin and he's a Bitcoin maxi, but words are cheap, actions are expensive. The SEC was going after, you know, and I would say it was political. And the reason that I say it's political is because I think that other members of the opposing party had every ambition and intent of essentially trying to create a monopoly so they can roll out a central bank digital currency. There was a bill that was passed in the House last year that essentially would make it illegal for the US government to roll out a CBDC. It was literally voted on against party lines. So, like, you know, Republicans voted for the bill that would make CBDCs illegal, and then the Democrats, not all of them, but most of them, voted for the bill that would allow the federal government to roll out a CBDC. I don't think you can have a CBDC and Bitcoin coexisting, right? To use Christine Lagarde's own words, Bitcoin would serve as an escape valve, right? Like, if people had a choice between a deflationary currency and something that's censorship resistant versus a currency that's able to be censored and able to be debased, like, eventually most people would choose the better currency, right? So they can't have that competition. And I believe that was a major motivator as to why they started targeting anything that related to the industry at all. Anyways, it goes on. Teng, who runs the international business of Binance, said that the company had benefited greatly in the past few months from the policies coming out from the US. I think the sentiment has shifted a lot. He also said Binance was working very hard on plans for a global headquarters for the exchange, a move that would break with its past when Zhao long insisted it had no formal home. Quote, it requires serious deliberation, and the board, the senior management, are spending a lot of time doing the evaluation, and hopefully we are able to announce our intentions on that front. Okay, so we read the entire article. Pretty good article from the Financial Times. Now I remember why I literally discontinued that subscription. Apparently, I still have that subscription. It is a little bit bent towards a certain angle. It is a little bit bent towards a certain angle, and it omits things, right? Which, like, if you're paying attention, you're like, you know, it's interesting that they're not mentioning that the administration wants to acquire more Bitcoin in a budget neutral way. They don't say that. They should say that, right? It should be mentioned in the article. And then they start off the article basically saying Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, pleaded guilty to U.S. criminal charges. That is literally the first sentence. So they're setting the tone right from the very beginning. But again, it was just one sentence. But that one sentence was essentially the signal, which is the current CEO of Binance said that they are helping a number of countries set up national strategic digital asset reserves in response to the change of administration here in the United States. That is the signal from this entire article. And from a price perspective, from an adoption perspective, that is incredibly bullish. And that's exactly what me and Opti have been predicting based on the game theory for the last couple of months. So I would say, guys, stay focused on the prize. We are still winning. It obviously, the price doesn't feel that way, and I think the price action of Bitcoin, there's an emotional component to it, right? Especially if you're one of the newer classes like 20, 21, 22. My advice would be hold on, wait a second. If you pay attention to the fundamentals, Bitcoin right now is stronger from a hash price perspective and from a regulatory perspective than it was when it peaked on January 20th, Trump's inauguration day at 109. It's much stronger today on a fundamental level than it was back then. I think it's just a matter of time before the price action catches up. Anyways, that's my bit. We have a special guest today. We have Kaz. Kaz is the co-founder of Bubble. We're going to be talking about that during the culture segment. And of course, my legendary co-host, who's always somewhat optimistic, Optimus Fields. It is Friday. We're crawling over the finish line. It's been 5 days, nonstop shows, back to back to back. Guys, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far, please smash that like button. Really helps getting this message forward. We're currently at 67 likes. Smash that like button. And yeah, Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, I think the biggest signal, like you said, was that one sentence. Though added to it, it wasn't just nation states or governments reaching out. It's also sovereign wealth funds. And this is something we've been talking about for a long time. Well, actually, since last summer, essentially, or whenever Trump officially announced that he's going to go more pro Bitcoin, we said that this would cause ripple effects around the world. And now it's actually happening. So as much as we were actually kind of trolling before the show off air and in the green room about like this price action is very disappointing so far, I'm still convinced we're going to have an explosive end of the year. And I'm getting even more convinced because all of us longtime Bitcoiners, I mean, we had Lop on. Nico and I were just talking about this before. So we had Lop on, and even he's like, I have no idea what's going on. No one in Bitcoin knows what is going on with the price action because we're seeing so much bullish news right now that in the past, Bitcoin would have already started ripping. But the fact that we're kind of going sideways, it is kind of incredible to see, especially when you're seeing all of these conversations being kicked off because of Donald Trump. Again, love him or hate the orange man, he's basically planted a flag here. And it's like, hey, if you want to stay ahead, you're going to have to adopt Bitcoin. Some countries are going the opposite way. We see what's happening in the EU. We're kind of seeing, and there's rumors about what's going on in China. And then other countries are like, actually, you know what? If the US is going into Bitcoin or digital assets, whatever you want to call it, then we should also. And it is really incredible seeing, the biggest institutions of the world, the biggest nation state in the world, basically put their stamp of approval on Bitcoin, and the price is going this stagnant right now. No one knows what's going on, but for everyone out there, like the fundamentals of Bitcoin have never been better. I think it's the least risky time to buy Bitcoin, obviously, and we get cheap sats. So everyone out there, like the price action, yes, it's a little disappointing so far, but this is an opportunity to acquire more Bitcoin than we ever thought. So, it's silver linings all around here, Nico. But I think the signal is, people are reaching out to talk to CZ or Binance or whoever it is, and sovereign wealth funds. And we all know the sovereign wealth fund meme. It's like they got money. And if they even put a portion of their money into Bitcoin as a store value, as long as they're actually taking spot Bitcoin into custody, like this price is going to rip. So, and then of course, like the low hanging fruit kind of cynical take here is like, we all know CZ, Binance is the biggest shitcoin casino. So who knows what this crypto advisory for a strategic digital asset reserves will look like. But if they are taking a lead from the US, then it should be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And then they'll do some sort of, shitcoin sovereign wealth fund play like the US. So, it's not perfect, but we're dealing with reality here. And hey, I think this is a good thing. I think more countries looking into Bitcoin is obviously a positive for the space. Now let's just hope that they don't get rug pulled and go all in on shitcoins. But hey, no one's going to be perfect here. I think nation states themselves will have to also go through their own shitcoin phase. So, just keep stacking it. It is what it is. It's a bloody day. It's a sad time on the Bitcoin price timeline here, but I'm starting to feel like we're gonna rip because we're all being sad and Max Payne meme. So
it's true, right? When things get quiet, the calm before the storm. Anyways, I'm gonna pass it on to Kaz. We got Kaz in the house. Kaz, what are your thoughts on this, my friend? Good to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, I've got a little counter optimism here. So what was it? China sold like 15 to $20 billion worth of Bitcoin and it didn't even move the market. And so at the same time, we're not as happy about the price moving upwards, but the fact that one of the largest sovereign nations that holds Bitcoin is selling a major portion of it and the market doesn't even react. It's like we still have so much pressure building up that whenever it does move, it's going to explode. So I think it's to see that move and see China sell like that. And it's like the market doesn't react. Bitcoin doesn't even really drop. And it's like, man, the US used to move Bitcoin around with the last administration. And they were like, oh, are they going to sell it? And it's like the market would drop 5%. And now it's like, okay, China just sold 15,000 Bitcoin and it didn't even budge the price. To me, that's pretty bullish.
100%. And we just got a post by Bitcoin Magazine CEO David Bailey. He says the amount of capital flowing into Bitcoin treasuries deals right now is pretty startling. There's no way the Bitcoin price could stay at these levels. The dam will break soon and the rally is going to rip your face off. I feel like those things have been being said for many months now. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us are kind of scratching our heads, but I kind of want to double back before we move on to the next segment. I kind of want to double back on, the signal from that article, right? So essentially it's basically making the case, look, it's official. Nation states, are looking into strategic Bitcoin reserves. They are asking Binance to advise them. Obviously, as Bitcoin maxis, right? Bitcoin, we're big fans of Bitcoin only, and we hear that and we're like, oh yeah. But I think that's positive overall, at least from a price action perspective. Like the things that are happening in the background. Like I've been in Bitcoin for a long time now. It's like 9 years. I've never seen the news this bullish. Never I don't remember. I don't have any recollection of any type of news at this level. This is stuff that we dreamed of back in 2017, back in 2018, but it just never happened like this, right? And now it's happening. It's happening all at once, but the price is not going along with it. And all of us are kind of scratching our heads. I mean, dude, like, has it been captured, Kaz? Like, like ever since the ETFs got involved, ever since governments have been saying, hey, we're going to buy Bitcoin, like, the price has been acting a little bit funky, has it not? I mean, everyone is confused. Everyone has these models, these predictions on Bitcoin Twitter, and everyone has just got it completely and catastrophically wrong. Like this is uncharted territory. Kaz, what's your ideas? What are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in for a while as well, and if you would have told me that we'd be at 84,000 right now, I would have called you a liar. I thought we'd be much higher, but at the same time, it gives everybody a chance to stack. And back on my point about China, it's like Bitcoin is the most liquid asset. You can sell it 24/7 globally, and there is a trade war going on right now. And the fact that we are pressuring China to sell Bitcoin while we're building a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and it looks like other countries are as well. It's like I feel like that's a little bit of a signal in itself. Obviously, Bitcoin is the signal. And it's like, okay, sometimes it signals to other markets. There might be a sell-off coming. For a long time, people have been having this debate. Does it correlate with tech stocks? And it's like, we're in a major trade war. The equities market in the US has been pretty volatile, to say the least, in the past 2 to 3 weeks. And Bitcoin's still at 84,000. I mean, it's not like we had a flash crash like we did in 2020, where Bitcoin, drops 50% overnight. It's like equities markets all around the world drop, 5 to 10% on average, and Bitcoin barely budged and was back at 84. So it's sending a signal that it's like it's here to stay now.
Yeah, well, I completely.
And actually, I do want to add to this because I did see this chart, and I think as someone in the chat said, like, Opti, give us some hopium on this Friday because I think everyone's feeling the pain. But I saw this chart here this morning, and I'm like, man, when you kind of look at it like this, it is pretty incredible how resilient Bitcoin is. And basically, it's a meme here. And guys, it's Friday. I put a meme up here. You're welcome. Guys, don't look at the all-time highs. Look at yearly lows. And when you look at the yearly lows, like, it is literally going up and to the right. Yes, of course, we're not seeing blow-off tops, but 2015, 185, 2016, 360. 2017 780, then 3200, then 3400, then 5000, then 25k, then 15k, 16k, 38k, and this year so far is 75k. Like, it's still going parabolic when you look at the all-time or look at the yearly lows. But I think we are kind of being a little jaded here because we're like, this price should be ripping. Like what everything Kaz just said, all the news we're hearing, we're like, why isn't the price ripping? But I think really, and I've said this before, like the Bitcoin price is a real-time metric of people's understanding of Bitcoin. And someone in the chat was like, no, it's actually the yearly lows is the real-time metric of people's understanding of Bitcoin. And if you look at that chart, like, it's going up. So, it is the best store of value, period. Like, what else are you going to buy? So as much as we all want to blow off top, it's still acting incredibly strong in the face of all kinds of crazy uncertainty in the global macro market. So, the signal is still people are wanting Bitcoin. You should get some Bitcoin. You should stack harder and take that Bitcoin into self-custody because we see the prices going up and to the right. And if you are a tea leaf reader, like look at the 200-week moving average. It's literally up and to the right. I could pull that chart up, but just trust me on this one, bro, or figure out how to use TradingView. 200-week moving average is just constantly moving up and to the right. So it's working exactly as designed. Of course, I think we have depleted dopamine receptors here because we aren't seeing the price pump, but everything's going according to plan.
Absolutely. Guys, if you guys are enjoying the show, we just broke 100 likes. Smash that like button. Help us break 200 likes by the time the show wraps up. We're at 1,500 live viewers between YouTube and X. And it seems like Rumble is working today. So we're back on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show on Rumble, we absolutely love the Rumble audience. Make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos. Guys, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. Donald Trump is fighting the Federal Reserve. He's claiming he wants to fire Powell. Quite interesting. Also, Coinbase, it seems like there was a rug pull on Coinbase, a $15 million rug pull on Coinbase. The name of the meme coin apparently was called Base. So we're going to be talking about that during the news. And of course, during the culture segment, we have a very special guest today. We have Kaz. Kaz is the co-founder of Bubble. You guys are definitely going to want to hear what it does. It's really cool. It's like a podcast AI aggregator. It's badass. So we're going to be covering all of that. It's going to be a hell of a show. It is Friday. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying it. Really, really helps the show. Let's get the show started. Before we do that, I do want to give an incredibly special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor. We would not be here without our sponsors, bitcoinwell.com. Buy real Bitcoin. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. To get signed up, you put in your email address, takes 2 to 5 minutes, and bada bing, bada boom, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. What makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform, empowering sovereign ownership with free and automatic self-custody. If you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well. What is the Bitcoin Wishing Well? Bitcoin Wishing Well is a contest. And every time you do this contest, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million sats. That's right. Just by going to bitcoinwell.com/simply and signing up, you get 3 opportunities to win up to 1 million Satoshis, and you win every single time. We're going to do a live on-air demo for you guys right now. We're tossing a coin into the Wishing Well. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code has won 210 sats. This I find pretty cool. If you earn enough points, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn points. If you get 69 million points, you can get an orange Cybertruck. If you get 30,000 points, you get a Simply Bitcoin hoodie. Guys, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. Best place to build your Bitcoin stack, automatic self-custody. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We'll be right back.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $84,550. Block height, 893,006. Sats per dollar, 1,184. Market cap, 1.68 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.09%. Percentage issued, 94.53%. Decline from all-time high, negative 22.6%. Realized monetary inflation, 0.85%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started, even though it doesn't feel that way. And I tend to agree with Opti. I've been ruminating with what Opti was saying. Opti, I think you're 100% spot on, bro.
About what exactly? Feed me, vindicate me again. Feed my ego. What am I right about?
Opti is right about nothing, and he has been officially taken off the show. No, man, you're right about essentially. You're right about the general feeling right now, dude, because like it's like if the consensus is bored, if the consensus is like, Bitcoin is boring, it's over, it's done, like, like that's usually the times of the biggest opportunity. Like it really is. If you the points of deepest despair, and this is like a weird despair, right? This like current market sentiment, because it's like it's not a full-blown bear, but at the same time, I think, and expectations are terrible to have in Bitcoin. But I think, again, if you're comparing it, could you pull up the previous market cycles, Opti? Like, it's the only way to really like.
Are we just doing an on-the-fly change of the?
Yeah, because I mean, I was thinking about it. I was like, this is something fun to talk about. Then we'll know what, let's actually talk about this, and then we'll talk about the Trump news during the news segment.
Yeah, let me try to find this chart on BitBo.
I mean, 22% down off the all-time high. That is so typical for a bull market in Bitcoin. I mean, we typically have 5 to 7 30% pullbacks on the rise. And so I feel like we're in a normal range.
Yeah, I mean, look, so let me
I got it.
All right. Thank you, Opti. So yeah, so this essentially is comparing all the different cycles, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. And as you could see, it's been pretty effing lame, hasn't it? The green one is 2021, the orange one is 2017, and the blue one is 2013. And the red one all the way at the bottom is
RIP.
Is this cycle. Now, just to give you guys like some indication, right? If this was 2021, if Bitcoin followed the same price action of 2021, we already would have hit 200K by now. If Bitcoin followed the same price action as 2017, we'd be at 900,000. No, over 1 million actually. If it followed 2013, we'd be at 2,400,000, which I think is like that's completely naive to think that, because the law of big numbers starts to come into play. But I don't know, man. Like it would, like I don't know. I'll open it up to you guys. Like, do you believe the cycles are over, man? Like Opti, we'll leave this up so like the audience could kind of like, let's check it out, right? Do you think the cycles are over, man? Do you think this is just going to be like a slow grind up into the right? Which I don't. Nico having a hard time saying Opti was right about everything. So what are your thoughts on this, Kaz?
I do not think the cycles are over. I think with the nation state adoption lurking, it's a little bit of a slow burn this cycle. It's hard for me to even call it a bear. Compared to like the last retail driven cycles, we have like new entrants this time. To your earlier point about like, has Bitcoin been captured? I think there's just a new distraction out there, which is MSTR. And now you've seen MSTY, and people, even, quote unquote, Bitcoin maxis are selling large portions of their stack for an equity dividend, which is laughable. And so I'm bullish on the slow burn, honestly. It's a little bit painful as a miner, but Other than that, as just a normal Bitcoiner, I'd say like take the opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And how has it been? Because also another thing that Kaz does, everybody, is he's a Bitcoin miner, right? So from the Bitcoin mining world, right? You know, I had a really good friend of mine, and the way he described it was like, Nico, Bitcoin mining is like a leveraged long, right? So it's phenomenal when the prices are going up, but when the prices are kind of going sideways, or when the prices are going kind of down, Bitcoin mining hurts a lot more because you have to cover those expenses, and your machine might not necessarily be profitable, and the profitability of that machine continues to go down over time, right? Very low margins industry. So how has it been from the kind of the mining perspective, and what should miners expect moving forward? Like, you know, are we going to see that light at the end of the tunnel? Cause
Yeah, I think as a miner, there are a lot of different ways you can structure your business. Obviously, everybody has seen like the public miners out there that take on, public capital. They try to build the largest mines possible and negotiate their power rates. But private miners have their own advantages too. And so they don't have that access to public capital, but they have way more control over who their investors are and how they can negotiate and sell deals. And so we like to think about it like there's multiple ways to look at it, that it's not just like, okay, what is the Bitcoin return versus like the dollar price, and where do your margins fit into that? Because depending on who your investors are, there's a lot of different ways you can sell mining. And so like whenever you have investors that are potentially, like that maybe they earn cash flow or like deals from royalties from other investments, like they have income that they need to do something with. And the cool thing about Bitcoin mining is like there are tax advantages for being able to depreciate against those machines. And so like we haven't had any trouble with our investors of like, hey, we need to buy more machines because they want to get rid of some of this income. And so we were able to, make it through the harder parts of the bear market. It's kind of looking like it's a little difficult right now with hash rate absolutely ripping. But again, as a private miner, like we're not beholden to investors that we don't share an ethos with. And so whenever we don't even sell Bitcoin. And so that's another huge reason of like, we're not looking at it day to day. We're extremely leveraged long on Bitcoin. And so are our investors. And so, yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with where we're at 84K.
why would people want to like mine Bitcoin rather than just buying Bitcoin?
That's been a debate for a long time. I think whenever you're coming from a different industry, particularly like oil and gas, like Bitcoin has a lot of similarities. And so like in the oil and gas market, you're producing an asset locally that is a valuable asset, and then you're selling it on the global market. And the cost of production locally differs wherever you're doing it. And so it's very similar to what you're doing as a Bitcoin miner. Like mining in Oklahoma or Texas is not the same as like Washington or in the Middle East somewhere. And so I think it really depends on what your strategy is as a miner, and can you work in other streams of revenue as well. And so like there's auxiliaries with demand response, and then obviously taking advantage of the tax laws that exist to be able to depreciate against those machines. And like there's an upside for investors that are interested in the hard asset of Bitcoin and not paying a lot more money to the government. And so that's kind of how we look at it. As if I was just an average person, like looking at it like, should I just buy Bitcoin or mine? And you don't have sort of the relationships with power companies and utilities, or you don't have access to capital, it's a harder sell. I wouldn't be trying to do it like in my garage at this point. I'd just be buying Bitcoin.
Yeah, unless you have what are those little tiny miners? I forget what they're called.
Oh, the BitAxe.
The BitAxes.
Solo
Those are so
mining is
cool.
really cool. And I think you're seeing more and more people like actually solo mine and find blocks. So it's kind of like a little Bitcoin lottery ticket.
Yeah, 100%. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on this, bro? Psychologically, how you doing? Do you still have the optimism? Is it still there? Is it still alive? Is it still thriving? Or Are you
Well,
becoming pessimist
Nico,
fields? I saw someone in the chat. They said the phrase. They said the phrase. I'm gonna pull it up. Where is it? The law of diminishing returns. Kenny says the law of diminishing returns. Are we seeing diminishing returns, Opti? Have we been spoiled by the past? Is it over? Is it done, Opti?
If you do look at that chart, then yeah, it's hard to say that we aren't seeing diminishing returns. And I was kind of saying this when we were at BitBlock Boom. I was talking to Stefan Livera, and he was just making me super bearish. He's like, I'm not trying to be the bear in the room. I'm just trying to be a realist here. And he's fully convinced of the law of diminishing returns. And as things go right now, obviously, if you look at the cycles and how they're playing out, then yeah, it seems to be the case that we are seeing diminishing returns. Obviously, there's probably a few factors. No. Obviously, there seems to be a few factors playing into this. One is like how much paper Bitcoin is there actually in the market and what's going on. And kind of two, what Kaz was saying, there seems to be a new distraction right now, whether it's like MetaPlanet or MicroStrategy, or, now we have GameStop kind of doing the same play. And so maybe some of the new entrants are essentially just going straight into stonks and not actually getting spot Bitcoin. And there is also like the a new crop of Bitcoin influencers that are literally like don't use Bitcoin and they're just full MicroStrategy bulls. And then the third one is just the size of Bitcoin market cap as it is. It's like people forget how much capital has to actually flow into Bitcoin to make the price move where it's going. And I know in the 2021 cycle, like we were all super disappointed at that one. But if you look at that chart that we just pulled up a minute ago, I would be so happy with a 2021 cycle right now. If we were playing out in 2021 and it was chilling at 200K, I'm sure we'd all be like, yeah, this is awesome. But I think what Kaz is saying is it's kind of a feeling that I've been getting as well. Is this slow burn? And if we do get this kind of slow burn, very brutal grind upwards, then from what I would, suggest or at least feel is that we would get less of a bear market. So I'd be kind of okay with this slow burn idea. And that means 2026 isn't going to be that brutal of a bear market. And that, that would be way better as someone that's basically all in on Bitcoin. I'm kind of for that. But obviously, I still feel like maybe, the cycle theories are playing out. But I think we are probably going to get some kind of movement towards the end of the year, which would kind of change the cycle dynamics or like the blueprint that we've had. Obviously, we only have like 3 data points, 3 cycles to really look back on. So if we do get a pump towards the end of the year, it would be very interesting. Though there is a good some good analysis from Lynn Alden, and she's basically saying, not that cycle theories are over, but leaning more into this whole global macro liquidity cycles. And if Bitcoin does kind of follow the liquidity cycles, then it kind of leads to the idea that we are entering a new paradigm here. As I've been saying for a while, Bitcoin is maturing. We have now become a macro asset, for better or worse. And so if that is the case, then yes, the Bitcoin price is going to start moving more on global fiat liquidity versus just, this 4-year halving cycle or, 210,000 block cycle. So, I think overall, this is very good for Bitcoin. I don't really believe the diminishing return memes, even though on paper, as of now, it does seem to be playing out. I really like kind of our boy CJ's kind of take on this, that yes, Bitcoin has been acting more like a commodity cycle. And as people start to wake up to what Bitcoin is, we'll start to get into a more monetary cycle of Bitcoin being monetized. And that's where we really start to see, I'm trying to do it the opposite, the S curve of Bitcoin here. And this is what we've all been waiting for, is when Bitcoin does break out, when Bitcoin does start to hit that S curve adoption cycle, I think diminishing returns is going to get blown out of the water. And I think that's when things are going to get crazy and everyone's really going to realize holy shit, things are bad in the fiat system. I need to have some Bitcoin. So until then, it's okay, all right, I guess we get more time to stack Bitcoin. Whatever, it is what it is. Bitcoin isn't going to die. I think I saw another good tweet the other day, and it's the biggest financial Ponzi or financial collapse we've ever had was Enron. And it was $70 billion. Bitcoin is a $1.65 trillion or $68 trillion market cap right now. Like, Bitcoin's not dying here. Yes, maybe it's not going to have 100x returns in 4 years, but this thing isn't over. It's just going up and to the right. Like, we're so spoiled here as Bitcoiners because we've seen this price action go absolutely nuclear. But overall, I think the fundamentals is still intact and everything is going according to plan.
Absolutely. Guys, if you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Help us break 200 likes by the time the show ends. Shout out to the YouTube audience, 423 of you guys watching live. Shout out to the X audience, 1,444 of you guys watching live. And of course, shout out to the Rumble audience as well. Shout out to all you guys. Smash the like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Share the content. Really helps getting this message forward. Anyways, guys, we're going to get to the news segment, and we're going to be talking about Trump's attempt to fire Jerome Powell. We're going to be talking about, like, again, it's weird, isn't it? Like, we always get lectured about democracy. This is one of the things that we always hear about, especially from the legacy media. Democracy this, democracy that. Okay, fine, we support democracy, but if you have an institution that has so much power over the economy, just the ability just to create money out of thin air, and the chair of that institution, the leader of that institution is not democratically elected, how much of a democracy are we in? That's what I got to say. Opti, what are you showing us?
This is the 200-week moving average price of Bitcoin. I don't know about you guys,
but look at that 2017, bro. That 2017 made me feel alive.
It's still going up and to the right. Why are we so bearish? This is how I know it's gonna pump, is when Bitcoiners, all in Bitcoiners, the Bitcoin maxis are like, man, can you do something? Bitcoin 200-week moving average going up and to the right. Best store value period. Best money period.
Guys, but we're going to hit the break in a second. But before we do that, I did drop a poll in the live chat. I said,
Oh, my God. We just lost Nico again. This Puerto Rican power is crazy. Let's see. What is this poll? I didn't even see the poll. The poll is Bitcoin having diminishing returns. We need more votes here. 45% say yes. 55% say no.
The diminishing returns argument kind of is starting to sound like the efficient market hypothesis that we talk about with halvings. It's like everybody wants to correlate it back to last cycle or the cycle before that, or the very early appreciation days of Bitcoin. And it's like that was all retail driven. And we have nation states sitting here talking about creating strategic Bitcoin reserves. I know I mentioned China selling yesterday, but China's like the second largest holder of US treasuries. And it's like, if this trade war keeps going back and forth, to me, the game theory is like, okay, dump US treasuries and buy Bitcoin. It's the sovereign asset that's globally liquid. And it's like, we haven't reached that yet. And all these nations are kind of, dipping their toe in, or there's media being put out about it for the potential. I feel like people are kind of asleep at the wheel of what this cycle actually could look like. Not trying to be the hyper bull here, but if nation states start like dumping treasuries in a trade war, or they start just printing fiat to acquire Bitcoin, like we could see a cycle that blows every other one out of the water. And it's like, okay, this is the end of fiat. This is where it is going.
Dude, I'm so effing excited. All right, everybody, let's move on to the news segment. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be Trump and the Fed going head to head. Really interesting. Could be heading into new territory, man. I mean, speaking about moving the Overton window, Matt Boyle in the chat says, I'd rather have diminishing returns than fiat decay. Ooh, very strong. All right, everybody, we'll be right back. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSBT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store.
All right, everybody, we are back. Opti is going to be showing you the MK4. If you use promo code SIMPLY, you won't get Opti, but you will get the best Bitcoin hardware wallet for 5% off. Go to the coldcard.com store, use promo code SIMPLY, scan the QR code on your screen. They have the MK4 or the Q. The Q has an A to Z keyboard. It is an incredible hardware wallet. It's considered the industry standard. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Take self-custody. Get yourself a Bitcoin hardware wallet. And of course, we recommend Cold Card, the Q or the MK4. Scan the QR code, 5% off, simply. All right, everybody. So let's talk about this. This is a Truth Social post from the president yesterday at 6 a.m. Can you imagine just waking up and this is the first thing that comes to mind, like right off the rip?
That was a toilet tweet.
Yeah, like, that was like Trump, like waking up. He's like, yo, he's like, F the Fed, bro. F the Fed. Anyways, Nico's energy levels have diminishing rate. I mean, it's true, bro. Like, you remember the early days of Simply? I was like, yeah. Oh man. All right. So, President Trump says the ECB is expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time. And yet, too late, Jerome Powell of the Fed, who is always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete not mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, and the USA is getting rich on tariffs. Too late should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should have certainly lowered them by now. Powell's termination could not come fast enough. Interesting. I have a little bit of a theory here. This is what I posted also kind of in the morning after reading Trump's post. Trump blocked the Fed from regulating the Bitcoin industry. Did you guys know that, by the way? So part of the executive order was that the Federal Reserve would have absolutely no say in regulating the industry. That is the exact opposite of what happened during the Biden administration, where Caitlin Long's bank, Custodia Bank, was denied a federal banking charter. And according to her, that came directly from the White House. But again, you apply for a federal banking charter to the Fed, and the Fed apparently was playing games. They were slow walking her. It was like clearly political. Trump came in there and said, hey, Fed, you're not allowed to regulate anything. And then I said, the Fed wants a CBDC to ensure its survival. Obviously, right? Like you hear this, maybe Jerome Powell's not saying this here in the US, but I remember there was like this like congressional testimony where Senator Lummis basically showed a picture of the things that the Fed were going to talk about. And at the very bottom of that list was a CBDC, right? Which I found fascinating. And then in Europe, they're going full steam ahead because they realize like without a CBDC, maybe this whole central banking thing won't work out. So, it makes sense, right? No one's better than their incentives. We know that that again, not monolithic, but the vote last year was very telling, right? There was a vote in the House. I'm going to keep repeating this over and over again. There was a vote in the House that would explicitly ban the federal government from rolling out a central bank digital currency. The majority of Republicans voted for that bill, and the vast majority, except for 4 Democrats, voted against that bill, right? The Fed also helped Kamala's campaign. I didn't come up with that. That's actually something that I got from one of Arthur Hayes' Substack pieces, where he was essentially theorizing that, hey, the Fed created a kind of loose monetary environment where the economy was thriving, things were pumping to kind of help Kamala get elected, right? And then I went on to say, at this point, is it really a stretch to say the Fed is purposely working against Trump's agenda, right? And I mean, you have Trump complaining here, and Trump basically, saying, hey, like, what the F is going on? And then again, if you get a mandate, an electoral mandate from the American people, and that electoral mandate is like, look, make America great again, et cetera, et cetera. But you have one of the most powerful institutions that's supposedly independent, but I call bullshit on that. And the reason I do is because anytime Congress approves spending, the Federal Reserve foots the bill every single time. That doesn't sound very independent to me. Is it, after everything we've seen in the last 5 years, is it too much of a stretch to say that there's a certain institution in our government that has become politicized? Is that too much of a stretch to say that? By the way, simultaneously, you have Elon on the campaign trail, and you have people asking Elon to end the Federal Reserve. You have Trump dropping the unholy year, the most unholy year in American history, 1913 by name, right? Okay, if I worked at the Fed, I wouldn't be too happy about that either, right? Anyhow, so they asked Trump about this during a White House kind of press conference that they've been having. Let's check out what President Trump had to say.
On Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast. Believe me. Yeah, go ahead.
So I gotta learn how to do that. Like when I talk to Opti, it's like Opti's amazing. It's a little slow, but he's amazing. He's a great guy.
He's got some kinks.
Very, very optimistic. Very optimistic. Some sad some days, but optimistic overall. Oh my God. All right. So, leading to this final thread, and then I want to open it up to get Kaz's thoughts on this, because I know Kaz must feel a certain way about the creature from Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve. Here's Simon Dixon. Very interesting kind of theory here. He said, he said, they didn't try to assassinate Trump and lose. They compromised him and won. They elevated him because he agreed to play their role, and now he's doing what they paid him to do. Trump became president not by defying the system, but by agreeing to serve the interest of his financial backers. He wrapped their agenda in a MAGA narrative so the American people would cheer while the controllers systematically dismantled the dollar. Let's be clear. The chair of the Federal Reserve isn't in charge. He works for the banks, the real power behind the curtain. The banking lobby tells the president who to appoint, and Trump's second largest backer is the Mellon banking dynasty, his biggest, Elon Musk, now positioned to reshape the U.S. into a technocratic empire. His third largest backer, someone I've never heard of, Miram Adelson, is the Israel first part of his policies. The U.S. economy has become a machine for asset stripping Americans, transferring wealth to banks, billionaires, and now the tech elite. Trump's reward, He profits from the transformation and sets his family to launch their own stablecoin in the new digital order. This isn't an attack on Trump. It's a reflection of how America truly works. The US is not a democracy. Neither is Europe. It's ruled by money, and everything is for sale. The president, Congress, and Senate. I'm sorry they lied to you, but it's time to wake up. Follow the money, not the political theater they use to keep you divided. Republican or Democrat, it's the same script, different actors. Oof. 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 You guys have some thoughts. Not my words. That's Simon Dixon. Kaz, starting off with you. Please, and we are on YouTube. Just a friendly reminder.
Yeah, of course. So you mentioned Custodia Bank at the very beginning of that. And I do think that was partially political, but I think it was also out of self-preservation. And so one of the interesting parts of Custodia Bank is they were going to have full reserves. And during COVID, we dropped the reserve requirement from 10 to 0% for US banks. And so now if you introduce a bank that has full reserves, you expose the cracks that exist in that system. And so to me, it was like, well, why would anybody want to hold their money in a bank that has 0% reserve requirement if there is a competitor in the market that has full reserves? And so over time, Custodia Bank would have knocked other banks out of the system. And so I think the Fed wants to keep control over asset prices. I feel like they'll say whatever they want, but to me, that's their real mandate. And so whatever their political agenda is, depending on what they're going for, like they're going to drive monetary policy to make or break that. And with interest rates where they are right now, I think there's a bit of a war between the Fed and the Trump administration, where Trump is looking at it from a self-preservation point of view for the US and saying, well, all of these years of extremely like high liquidity in the markets, low interest rates have created this debt issue that we actually can't pay out of now. And if we have $9 trillion worth of debt that is maturing this year, and so are we going to refinance that at 4.5%, 5% rates, whatever they might be at that point? And so Trump, to me, part of this sort of economic policy, the tariff wars and all of this, is to put pressure on the Fed to actually lower those interest rates for a period of time to refinance that debt, not just to pump asset prices. And I think you're definitely hitting on a big point here with like, are they doing this politically? Because if they are and they want a CBDC, to me, the easiest way to do that is to have extremely high interest rates now after we've had extremely low interest rates, so that once that debt is mature, we get into a position where we can never pay off the debt. And then I mean, we're hearing this like new monetary system. It's coming from like all angles. Is there going to be a new Bretton Woods? Is it going to be the Mar-a-Lago Accords? And to me, Trump kind of has his own agenda there. It's like, okay, we need to lower them for a period of time and move to some other backing, but there has to be a backing. And the other side is saying, well, we're going to keep it here so we collapse the market, make Trump look bad, and we have the debt move into a spiral that we can never get out of. Either way, we're moving to a new monetary system. And so that debt has to be either restructured or we create something new. And I think the Fed or the political agenda attached to it is trying to use that as leverage so they can introduce a new monetary system on a CBDC. And Trump is saying, well, I have a new idea. And I think that could be Bitcoin.
Man, I think, oof, I like that. I like that a lot. Opti, what's your take on Kaz's opinion?
No, yeah, I totally would agree with Kaz's take on this. I've been kind of seeing something very similar, and I've actually been watching a lot of Simon Dixon clips. He's actually been doing some pretty good analysis on the macro markets right now and like what indicators you should be looking at. And yeah, like I totally agree with what Kaz is saying. Obviously, we're doing a little bit of like mind reading here. We really don't know, but from what we can see, that does seem to be playing out. Now, kind of going down the like Tom Luongo route and my boy, Mr. Sue, I kind of like this take here as well. You know, we got Jerome Powell talking yesterday, and he was talking about the tariffs. And my boy, Mr. Sue, aka Phil, goes, aka the globalists didn't expect Trump to raise tariffs that high and wreck their shit like they did. They hope higher inflation would come back and force Powell towards ZERP again, but it won't. They're losing their asses. And, you know, doubling down, this is a great thread I saw after the, you know, Jerome Powell speech. And, you know, you guys can find this on Twitter if you want, or I can drop it in the chat. But Jerome Powell, he says, just delivered one of the most quietly pivotal speeches of his career, but most won't notice. And this is probably the takeaway here. Powell confirmed that growth is slowing. Q1 GDP looks weak. Consumer spending is fading. Imports are up, but only because businesses are racing ahead of tariff hikes. Translation, we're tiptoeing towards stagflation, and the Fed knows it. So I think from what we're seeing is a lot of people are realizing that from what you're hearing coming out from the official narrative is like they are hinting towards either one, you know, as us Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time, like they're losing control of the system and they're trying to persuade everyone that everything's going good. But if you really listen to kind of what they're saying, whether you believe that Trump is fighting Fed narrative or, you know, the US is fighting the EU narrative and basically trying to bankrupt the globalists, one thing's for sure, we are seeing some cracks in the system and most people are trying to figure out how to position themselves. As we've been seeing lately with gold going basically all-time high, a lot of people are going to gold. We're seeing what's going on in the treasury markets. We're all macro experts now. And it looks like people are dumping treasuries and they're trying to find an alternative. Obviously, the standard safest bet, quote unquote, is been gold historically. And so people are moving towards gold. But as we would say as Bitcoiners, the real safe bet is, you know, a neutral, apolitical money that can't be controlled, can't be debased, that is permissionless, censorship resistant. Of course, that is Bitcoin. So I think we are going to see some really big moves going into Bitcoin. Obviously, you can even point out what BlackRock has done. Like a lot of the nation states are going towards gold. BlackRock, one of the biggest institutional managers, is starting to move their clients into Bitcoin. And is this basically, you know, like they're just ahead of the curve? I would argue yes, because we're Bitcoiners and they're probably seeing what we're seeing, where it's like, look, as Lynn Alden's been saying, as Larry Lepard's been saying, like the big print is coming. They have to print money. This is the end game. We all know where it's going. And if you are trying to actually protect yourself, you need to have some Bitcoin. So obviously politics, macroeconomics, TradFi, and all that stuff, it moves a lot slower than us Bitcoiners do because we're a lot nimbler. We're just, you know, individuals. We're basically the first guys out of the room. As the saying goes, I just watched Margin Call again like a week or two ago. And it was like, there's only 3 ways to succeed. And it was what? The first one is, you know, cheat. The second one is be the smartest. Yeah, be first. Wait, no, the first one is like cheat. The second one is be first out the door. And the third one is like be the smartest guy in the room. Well, look, none of us claim to be the smartest guy in the room. And obviously us Bitcoiners, based on our ethos and the Bitcoin proof of work kind of ideology, we're totally against cheating. So we're just the first ones out of the door. And we're just looking at everyone else. We're like outside of a burning building, like, why is no one leaving the building? Don't they know it's on fire?
you know, Opti, he is, you know, he is the smartest, but you know, he's first. That's my really lame.
No,
Trump impression.
Opti's not the smartest guy, but he got out the door first. He's incredibly intelligent.
If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. We just broke 200 likes on YouTube. Appreciate the support. Picked up later. Look at that, Opti. Also, shout out to the Rumble audience as well. Absolutely love you guys. Guys, stay tuned for the show. We still have tons to cover. We're going to hit the culture segment. We have Kaz joining us on the show today. And we're going to be talking about his latest project, Bubble. He is the co-founder. We're going to check it out. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean.
and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally not only have an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you today. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Head over to ledn.io today. All right, everybody, we are back. Guys, smash that like button. It really helps with the algos to see how many likes we got. We blew past our target, 202 likes. Help us get to 250 by the time the show wraps up. Anyways, Opti.
I got this. Let me take let's start with some trolls. This show has been a little bit doomery. It's Friday. Let's have some fun. So first of all, Kaz, what is bubble.fm and why are you such a PodConf enthusiast here that you created a podcasting platform?
Yes. So Bubble is a podcast discovery platform. And so we want it to be like your portal to finding out what was actually said. And so the thesis when we started this was that the media landscape is changing and all the conversations are being had on podcasts. And being in Bitcoin, being a fan of Adam Curry, I was seeing podcasting 2.0 take off and being able to like share clips, but there was nobody really piecing those together as an offering. And so when we first started out, we were like, well, there might be an angle for like using a little bit of AI here to help us find what narratives are happening and being able to search actually the spoken word of the new media. And so if you had like Google search back in the day, and like that was the traditional way to find out what was happening. And then you would have like corporate press or blogs writing about the media. And it's like, well, now all of that has shifted. People are using AI for search and they are having conversations, which podcasts I like to call like a little bit of proof of work. And so in this like AI bubble that we have, you can't tell anymore if this was even written by a human. And so there's value in having a real down-to-earth conversation that in some ways mimics Bitcoin, that it is like it's provable, verifiable that a human engaged with this. And it took time to produce. And so we were like, well, there's now no way to interface with that. And so we started out with piecing these things together and using AI to build what we call digests. And so in PodConf and with the Bitcoin Bugle, they talk a lot about like, to get up to speed, you need to listen to 40 hours of podcasting a week. Obviously, nobody can do that. And so we wanted to build like tools and products for listeners and for podcasters to be able to quickly download and see what is being said across certain things and like highlight those clip moments that people are sometimes sharing, but nobody's building them into like a multimedia experience where you can just be like, okay, well, here's what 15 different podcasters were saying this week about Bitcoin or about this sports team or whatever. And so that's where we started at. And we moved towards actually a search engine on this spoken word. And so you can go in there, you can type in whatever you want and find a clip related to it, or you can have a conversation with what we're calling the genius chat. And so I don't like the AI angle of it will tell you what it thinks about things. And so if we're going on the thesis that podcasters have some sort of an education of what they're talking about, they have spent time, building up that show, they're probably pretty knowledgeable to some degree. And so we're using a little bit of AI there, not like letting it give you its own response, but it's putting it in a chat format where you can say, okay, what did the higher side chats, Greg is coming on board our podcast services. What is his talk like? How is his conversations about aliens or the pyramids shifted over time? And instead of it giving you like, oh, this is what AI thinks about it, it's actually going off the transcripts of the spoken word and building citations into that conversation that let you reference an exact moment in a show. So then you can be like, well, I want to hear this. And then we bring it out to the podcast player.
That's pretty fucking badass, dude. I love it. Very cool, dude.
Okay,
Very
so
cool.
how does this
now,
work?
The big question, Kaz, since we've last spoken, has Simply Bitcoin been added?
I believe so. It should
go to Podcasters Opti. Moment of truth.
Podcasters is for onboarding people.
Search. Go to search.
Well, the search. Yeah,
let's
search
see.
Is behind an account right now, so we'll get you guys added for sure whenever you get an account created.
Maybe we were mentioned in Natalie Brunel's. I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably what it's showing.
We'll see. Who knows? But all right, look, I do have your a little blurb here so we can check it out. So Kaz, why I play this in the background, how does this work? People download it? Is this an app? How do the listeners interact with this?
Yeah, so you can visit it in the web. It's called a progressive web app. So we wanted to, with the podcasting 2.0 angle, like Apple and Spotify were some of the big ones that centralized that index for a long period of time. And so we were thinking like, well, we don't want to go straight to the app store to let people like control the distribution again, which is Apple. And so you don't need to like go download an app. You can just download it directly from our website. And it uses like a modern version of the web that is in a lot of ways quicker than a native app now. And so you can just immediately use it in your browser. It translates to mobile. You can add it to your home screen and it will behave like a native app. But just, yeah, there you go. It's for sure in there then. And so, yeah, after our last conversation, I was put on the spot and then I was put on the spot again.
It's there. It's confirmed. We're in the promo.
You're in the promo. So there you go.
There we are.
Snap. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Wait. So as of course Nico's podcast approved. I am not. As a podcaster here, how are you pulling the data? Is this like RSS feed or like how's the back end working here?
Yeah, so everything is RSS based, but we're RSS agnostic. So if you have a podcast, you don't need to change like your hosting or do anything really different. What we're going for is discovery. And so that kind of plays on the name bubble. And so like Bitcoin's a bubble. People say AI is a bubble. But in media and podcasting, you have its own bubble shaping where it's hard to discover new content. And so with the digests, we also have a clip feed. And so it's kind of like an X experience now where you can just scroll and it shows you topics and like clips instantly with cards and summaries on them that you can read on board, move to the next one. But it puts new content in front of your face, but it lets you control that algorithm. So you're like, okay, I'm tired of seeing Bitcoin stuff. Let me see this now. And then you can have a window to instantly listen to, oh, I find this interesting. Boom. Now you can queue it up, listen to the full episode. And so I think this was one of the big issues with podcasters in general that they were having. Like I used to have a show back in the day. It's like, how do you make your show more discoverable? That's what everybody cares about. They want new people to find it. Converting your listeners and building a fan base is one thing, but also how do you put your content in front of new people? And so that's really what we're going for. And every tool is built around that in mind.
Grind like a motherfucker and learn the YouTube algorithm. No one says that.
True.
But it's the only
content
way.
For sure. Yeah. You just have to keep posting. It is a grind.
Yeah, to say the least. Bro, this is awesome. This is super cool, and I see the use case here is like people who like you've had. It's what you said, Kaz. Like you said this initially, right? Like not everyone has 10 hours a week to listen to a podcast, but it's like, and things aren't aggregated like they are with legacy media. But the problem is that with legacy media, like, you know, it, I'm not going to go down that route, but let's just say that a lot of the things that the legacy media says, like their headlines, they're not entirely accurate. Like I'll give you, let's make it Bitcoin related so we don't go down the politics route. Opti, one day we just got to have a Rumble exclusive where just me and you just go fucking, I mean, excuse me, me and you just go bananas. Okay. So like the Financial Times article, that Financial Times article was heavily skewed. It was heavily skewed. Like if you just kind of read the news and you're not in the business of news, and you're not in the business of like just, you know, talking and all that stuff, you could maybe perhaps oversee it. But that article left things out, right? And that article was trying to shape a narrative. The first sentence of that article was like Binance, which was convicted of a crime, right? Now think about if how they would describe it, like how they would describe a certain politician or how they describe the Federal Reserve. Like it's very easy to shift the perception of something based on how it's written on the first thing. So I think the world has had this like great awakening over the last 5 years or so. And that's why you've seen the rise of independent media kind of take the place of legacy media. The problem with legacy media, the problem with independent media is there's like a million effing podcasts, right? Like even Joe Rogan, he does great. And I still listen to Joe Rogan if it's like a really like the one that he did with Trump, and then the one that he did with like, you know, some people. I still listen to Joe Rogan every once in a while, but I'm not listening to Joe Rogan every single day, right? So, but what if something really important happens on Joe Rogan or something really important? I mean, it'll probably end up on X, Kaz, right? If it's a viral clip, it'll end up on X. But what you do is you essentially just aggregate all of this. And does it give like a weekly news summary of all the highlights that have happened?
Yeah, that's the digest. And so the digests are updated weekly. And like the Bitcoin one, for example, like it will shift and it will give you something to read, but it's all based on actually what was said. And then it relates what's written to actual timestamps and clips that you can just pinpoint. So it's like, okay, I don't have time to listen to this 2-hour episode. I care about this one thing that was said during the certain moment. And that's what is highlighted in the digest.
Very, very
Same
cool.
thing on the clip feed and all of that. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Exactly what you mentioned. Like, right. Like, you know, Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world, talks about tons of different topics. And now you have these kind of clip hunters out there that are listening to episodes to find a particular moment so they can share it on X and go viral. And so the next thing that we're looking at adding is being able to just take that clip, and if it has a video, whether it doesn't, we'll put it into a video format for you and then immediately go share it on X. So you can just scroll on the timeline, find things that you thought were interesting, or go pull it from a digest and then share it on X. Instead of having to like search the episode, you know, pull it up, record it in your browser, clip it, trim it, and then post it. It's just one click, download, share to X.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Clip finders literally losing their job to AI thanks to Kaz and Bubble. Love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys, go check out bubble.fm. Go to bubbl.fm. Again, bubbl.fm.
What's the last 3 letters? No, I'm trolling.
Go check out Kaz. He's our boy. He's been in the Bitcoin industry for a while. Super awesome that, you know, he's on this new venture. It's really, really cool. Go check out the platform. Guys, this was Simply Bitcoin Live, last episode of the week. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We would not be here without your guys' support. If you guys want to support the show, check out our sponsors. We're very picky on who we choose to partner with. That being said, I do want to give a shout out to our conference sponsor, Bitcoin 2025. It's the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. It's going to be at the Venetian Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada, May 27th through the 29th. Embrace game theory. The entire Simply Bitcoin crew is going to be there. Ladies and gentlemen, Ross Ulbricht will be speaking at Bitcoin 2025. Officially announce the man, the myth, the legend himself, freedom fighter, sentenced to 3 life sentences, freed by President Trump. It will be speaking at the Bitcoin conference, Ross Ulbricht. So you definitely don't want to miss this Bitcoin celebration, Bitcoin 2025 in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Venetian Hotel. Use promo code SIMPLY. Again, promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off. All right, everybody. Love you all. We'll see you guys on Monday. Have an amazing weekend. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.